This is going to be another special evening. Hello, Dame Benis Ibiam, how are you? Six minutes to go. Let me try Dr. Abati again. We need you on standby. Mr. FEMI Falana, who will be joining us any moment from now. Hey. Iola, we're going live. Yes, good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We are waiting now for one of those big interviews preceding my 61st birthday on Sunday, May 16, and tonight I have the pleasure of having Mr. FEMI Falana, SAN, on this program. It's going to be interesting, trust me. Hello, good evening. Yes, I can hear you. Oh, okay. As long as it's on this one, as long as it's on this phone. If it's on this phone, yes, I will see it. No problem. Okay then, no problem. Take care. Bye bye. Yeah. Bye. Mojuba o. Mojuba, ẹ ṣeun gan ni, ẹ ṣeun gan. Adúpẹ́ ipe àpè yẹn jẹ́ wa o. Okay. Mo fẹ́ ojú Ben, please can you highlight Mr. FEMI Falana SAN? So let's check that his lights, his audio and everything is okay. Okay, Ejo, we need to centralize your face, sir, to be at the center. Okay, fantastic. That looks good. Ẹ jẹ́ kí èmi náà kàn fìlà mọ́ ń gbà yẹn. Nígbà tẹ́ ẹ ti wọ suit ní tẹ́ ẹ dé tie lálẹ́ yìí o. Yes, sir. Just a minute, sir. We're going live simultaneously on Zoom, on Facebook, and on Instagram. So we expect to have a massive audience. So I'm trying to pin the comment now.
How long is this program?
Oh, anything from 1 hour to any time. It depends on how the spirit directs you, sir. You know, is the spirit. Yes, if you are firing on all cylinders, you can go on ad infinitum. No problem. Anytime you feel, yeah, that's not a problem. But we will try to make it as fast as possible. Because it is you, we have loads of questions. People have forwarded questions ahead. So. And I know that you are always very, very hot. So I'm so excited. Thank you so much, sir. Just a minute. So we have 1 minute to go. Is Dr. Ruben Abati in yet? Yes, he's here. So. Dr. Ruben Abati, please unmute. We have 30 seconds to go. Dr. Ruben Abati. Sir?
Okay, yes.
Okay, so he's just going to make an introduction, your introduction. It's a very special one, so we want someone to do the introduction. So, Doctor, please go ahead. It's time for us to go.
Okay, good evening, Bashorundele Momodu. Good evening, Mr. FEMI FALANA, SCN. And good evening, everybody. We did it yesterday, and now today is another day. And today again, as we count down to Bashorundele Momodu's 61st birthday on May 16, we have another special guest to help us focus on key issues of national progress and development and issues of equity, justice, and fairness in Nigeria. Issues of nationhood. These are key issues that our guest today, Mr. FEMI FALANA, SCN, has championed in the last 2 decades and indeed for his entire career. You all know him as a very dedicated, very outspoken voice in the defense of human rights, in the defense of civil liberties, in the defense of the public space and the need for the expansion of the civic space and fairness in the way Nigeria is organized, in the way Nigeria is led, and in the way in terms of how our leaders behave. Over the past 2 decades, he has been associated with many civil rights and human rights groups, including the Civil Liberties Organization, the Nigerian Labour Congress, the human rights groups, the Coalition for Democracy, and therefore he was at the forefront of the struggle for justice with regard to the 1993 election won by Chief Edgar Abiola, which was aborted. We're quite privileged to have with us a man who has been in his entire life at the barricades, so to speak. A man who has dedicated his life to service and patriotism. And for this, he has been he has faced a lot of discrimination, a lot of oppression, particularly from the military, under military rule. And even that has continued in some other ways, both subtle and overt, under civilian rule. But he remains committed, he's not discouraged, and his example, again, in my view, is an example that is worthy of emulation. But of course, while dictators have not been uncomfortable with him, he's highly respected within our community as a voice of reason, as a man who has the strength of his convictions, as a human rights lawyer, as an activist, and as a public intellectual who is always prepared to be called upon to discuss issues that can make life better for all of us. He is a member of the Nigerian Bar Association, a senior advocate of Nigeria, a honorary member of the American Bar Association, and a former president of the West African Bar Association. It will be recalled that these days we talk about the West African Court, In fact, it was under the watch of Mr. FEMI FALANA SAN that court, the scope of that court, due to his advocacy and that of his team, that the scope of that particular court was expanded to be a court where individuals can take matters and not only states, are the ones that can go there. He's a winner of the Bernard Simmons award given to him by the International Bar Association. He's also a winner of several other awards in leadership and in advocacy. And of course, he has also dabbled into politics. I think it was in 2007 that he ran the platform of the National Conscience Party as a governorship candidate. Of course, he won. I guess because he didn't have money to give to Godfather, to party member. But he remained the chairman of the National Conscience Party till 2011. And of course, you all know him beyond his advocacy in the public space and his many writings as an author, as a defender of the rule of law. He's also the father of FEMI Falana, the rapper, actor, comedian, and artist, creative artist, and lawyer, who is popularly known as Fars. Mr. FEMI Falana SAN shares something in common with our host, Bashonu Dele Momodu. They were both born in the month of May. When we celebrate Chief Bashonu Dele Momodu on May 16, on May 20, that will be the birthday of FEMI Falana SAN. As you all know, he's from Ilawe, Ekiti, where he attended primary school and also, in fact, attended a seminary. And then later went on the University of Ife, as he then was, now Obafemi Awolowo University. And he graduated in 1981 and was called to the bar, the Nigerian bar, in 1982. He worked in the chambers of Alawa Kabashorum, another very famous hero in Nigerian history. And I guess it was there that Mr. FEMI Falana cut his teeth as an activist. And since then, he has remained committed. He went on to establish with his wife his own chambers, known as Falana and Falana Chambers, under which auspices he has taken a lot of pro bono cases defending human rights. Either it is the Ogune case, which he defended successfully, leading to Shell being sanctioned, or the case of June Sabiri, who was in detention for more than 5 years, and FEMI Falana SAN was able to win that. Most recently, he's been involved in the case of Omoyele Sowore, and all of us must have been seeing him in court, defending human rights. And of course, he's a very prolific writer also. He has about 4 books to his name, and he's a regular commentator on local and international affairs. So we're quite privileged today to have Mr. FEMI Falana SAN in our midst. And on behalf of all of you, I would like to welcome him. And I look forward, as you also look forward, I believe, to a very exciting and engaging session. Knowing Mr. Falana, as we all know him, he's a man who does not know how to pull the punches. He says it as it is. So let's just sit back as I hand over back to Bashorun Dele Momodu.
Thank you, Dr. Ruben Abati, PhD. Thank you so much. You are also a lawyer, and I really appreciate you. That was a fantastic introduction. Let me quickly add that I knew and I met this great man, Mr. FEMI Falana SAN, in Ife. He was my senior, and he had distinguished himself from Ife, not even when he got to Lagos. From Ife, we all knew him. He was that radical. There were 2 people I will never forget in those days, himself and Mr. Dapo Oloruyomi. I mean, I saw so many books with Mr. Dapo Oloruyomi. He was one of those who influenced me to read it. I'm sure he doesn't know this, but it's good for us in this public space to put those accounts and records straight. So thank you. Also, when I contested the presidential election in 2011, Mr. FEMI Falana SAN was my chairman, the chairman of my party, and I want to thank him publicly for his spirited efforts, because even in that small party, we could have had problems. Maybe I would have been cashed out of the system, but he made sure that everything went smoothly. Thank you, sir. And I would like to fire the first one. And it's a speech that I would want you to recollect, and then I would ask the question. Fellow countrymen, the intervention of the military at the end of 1983 was welcomed by the nation with unprecedented enthusiasm. Nigerians were unified in accepting the intervention and looked forward hopefully to progressive changes for the better. Almost 2 years later, it has become clear that the fulfillment of expectations is not forthcoming. Because this generation of Nigerians, and indeed future generations, have no other country but Nigeria, we could not stay passive and watch a small group of individuals misuse power to the detriment of our national aspirations and interests. So, do you remember that speech? And if you do you think Nigeria has made appreciable progress since that time? And if so, give us the reasons why you think we've made progress, and if not, how do you think we have retrogressed?
Well, thank you very much, Dele, your family called and our circle. And I thank Dr. Ruben Abati for the introduction. And I want to say that I'm delighted to appear in this program. With respect to your first question, yes, I would say that Nigeria has not made appreciable progress. Things are in fact getting worse by the day because of the fact that there is grinding poverty all over the country, which has recently led to young men and women taking arms against the state. And that has made it impossible for our country to make progress. People can no longer go to their farms. People can no longer do business in the country. People cannot move freely in the country. This certainly was in the country. And Nigerians are bargained for. The ruling class, members of the ruling class, representing all the ethnic and religious persuasions in Nigeria, have granted the country to a halt. For me, our crisis has been compounded by the uncritical embrace, uncritical acceptance of neoliberal economic policy dictated by the IMF and the World Bank. Oh, you must devalue your currency. Fraudulently through dollarization of the economy. Oh, they are not going to announce devaluation. But what is going on is to devalue the currency through dollarization. Secondly, Nigerians have lost hope in the country because of certain political decisions of the government. It's lack of a sense of belonging because of lopsided appointments and divided temporal practice of the government. So young people are disenchanted generally, and they are now embracing all manners of criminal activities. Whereas for young generation online, and particularly for many of the guys in government, we had dreams, we had hopes when we were leaving the university. Today, the dreams of our young people have been shattered. But for me,
how do you take the country back? But before you answer that, sir, you said Nigerians have lost hope in the country. Have you? Are you disenchanted like other Nigerians? And if you still believe Nigeria can be taken back, what are the concrete steps that will make it happen in a place where some people feel superior to other Nigerians, where a professor who calls himself a Fulani man every day is ranting and saying the governors are talking rubbish, they need to consult them before governors can take decisions? Do governors need to take decisions after consulting someone else?
Well, thank you very much. I am perhaps angrier. I am more disenchanted by majority of Nigerians. And that is why I have never hesitated to join issues with the military and the civilian wings of the Nigerian bourgeoisie. I fight them. I heard the statement of Professor Usman. For me, I think it was a very tragic, development. Because with profound respect to him, this statement is grounded in morbid ignorance. And I have made the point abundantly clear when people talk about Ruga, and all those funny things. As far as Nigeria is concerned, under the Land Use Act, and by the way, the Land Use Act was entrenched in the Constitution by the military. The entire land in every state vested in the governor. The president of Nigeria can only exercise control in respect of the land in the Federal Capital Territory. Outside Abuja, outside the FCT, the president cannot decide what happens in respect of the land in any other state. So, for anybody to say, out of what I would call gargantuan ignorance, to say, the governor will have to consult elders before training, you cannot engage in night grazing, open grazing in my state. That right has been vested in the governor, exclusive. And so for me, I simply dismiss such provocative statements because they cannot be justified in law. And now that the governors have made their pronouncement, and I have advised them, you must walk your talk by proceeding to mobilize the respective houses of assembly to enact appropriate legislation, so that we may know, as a person will say, we want to know in the land, That's my response to such the statement credited to the professor.
Yes, I'm still waiting for your response as to the concrete steps towards reclaiming Nigeria.
The concrete steps is that we have to get organized. And I think we saw a bit of that last year when young people decided to say no to police brutality. The type of organizational capacity demonstrated by young men and women all over the country, I think it's a lesson for Nigeria that we can, if properly mobilized, it has been difficult to have political parties in Nigeria organized on the basis of ideology. We must go back to that era.
Sir.
And we have the time on our hands.
Sir, you entered the University of Ife ahead of me. I came in 1978, and that was the year of the Ali Must Go.
Yes.
We have been organizing since then, since Ali Must Go. I was one of the pioneer Jambites. But Nigeria is getting worse, to use your word. Don't you think your recommendation of people organizing is like treating cancer with paracetamol?
No, for me, we haven't really organized. I mean, just imagine what happened a couple of days ago. That governors in the entire South, 17 states, gathered for the first time to embrace restructuring public. For many of them, it was a no-go area before, because they felt they were comfortable. But now that they are being faced with agitation for the balkanization of the country, they are now compelled to say, don't break it up. We can restructure the country. We can put an end to lopsided appointments. We can have state police. We can also insist on a new revenue allocation formula. These were demands that governors shown before. Now, we now have to proceed to make the point that unless you restructure the country, vertically and horizontally, there may be no peace. And that is already what is going on. And people say, we don't want restructure. We want our own republics. And my own position is that, as a human rights activist, I believe in the right to self-determination enshrining Article 20 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. But I also insist that we can still ensure that we continue to agitate for a new Nigeria. It is why the forces of retrogression make that impossible that you can begin to talk of other options.
Don't you think we have exhausted all that? And are you not underrating President Muhammadu Buhari as a man who is not likely to blink an eye? If you like, all of you go and sleep on the street for the next 2 years. He won't blink an eye. He will not even comment.
Once you believe that you have the headmaster in Abuja that our governors run to, yes, you may say that will be difficult. But really, I talk of concrete experience. And I'll give you some instance. There was a time the federal government went to court to fight resource control via the Supreme Court. And the federal government won. It was a very big to say the resources in the offshore, in the continental shelf, will be owned exclusively by the federal government. Of course, after the victory, legal victory, the Niger Delta people decided we are going to have resource control, whether you guys in Abuja like it or not. And there were actions in the Niger Delta that forced the evolution of Obasanjo administration to rush a bill to the National Assembly abolishing the onshore-offshore dichotomy. That's number one. Number two, the federal government criticized Governor Akeredolu when he gave a quick note to beggars in Ondo State. You either register or you quit. Presidency roared like a lion. How dare And I came out on that occasion to advise the president to be cautious. And that you should stop giving the impression that the federal government is a pro-header government, and that by virtue of the forestry law of Ondo State, section 42, anybody who trespass on a government reserve is liable to be prosecuted, and if convicted, 5 years imprisonment, no option of fine. For the world development that forced the federal government to announce later, oh sorry, governors, it is your responsibility to control the forest in your state. The third one, in Western, is governors in the Southwest. A couple of years ago, decided to have Amoteco as a way of, responding to the mindless killing of our people and raping of women by, criminal elements parading themselves as headers. And what happened? The federal government came out as usual. Oh, I think to the Attorney General. Oh no, you cannot do it. Security is in the exclusive legislative list. Defense, police, and so on and so forth. Again, I came up. Mr. Attorney General, you have the ISBA police in the northwest, and you have the civilian JTF in the northeast. How can you say that other regions cannot have their own security network, some? And it was at that stage that the federal government said, okay, you can have Amoteco. The eastern governors now have met to say they are going to have their own regional network. In the middle belt and south regions, people, the governors are also they are having their own regional security network. The point I'm making therefore is that the struggle for restructure, the struggle for a new name, is like a struggle for independence. Nobody is going to give you your freedom on the platter of gold. You have to struggle and fight the power. And daily I've told you that between 1999 and now, we have snatched power from Abuja in the past. Not less than 20 cases have been won against the federal government, either with respect to control of land in the state, physical planning by state governments, inland waterways to be controlled by state government, local government funds cannot be seized by the federal government, local government elections cannot be conducted by the federal government, entertainment levies cannot be collected by the federal government. I can go on and on and on. And the point I'm making therefore is that we cannot wait and fold our hands and allow the federal government or the authoritarian concentration of powers in Abuja to prevent us from developing our own region, our own part of it. That is my point.
Well, there is a question I just picked up here, that it seems principally the Yoruba people have been agitating all their lives, and that are the Yoruba going to be serial agitators forever with little or no result? You see, because yes, everything you have said, everything you have done as a lawyer, alongside others, Chief Ganifa and everybody, fantastic. But in today's Nigeria, they amount to a drop in the ocean. Don't you think so?
No. On the contrary, we continue to struggle and win our battles. The situation, I'm telling you, the situation will have been much, much worse if these battles had not been put up. As a matter of fact, majority of the state governments will have pulled out. If we have not taken up the battle of dismantling some of the powers in Abuja, the state government will not have been able to survive economically. on the state governments went to court to say, each of us have our capital, state capital. Why should we fund the capital of the federal government? And to start that state, that was yanked off the federation account. And I can go on and on and on. So the point I'm making is that the battles we have put on in the past, including the battle for the restoration of democracy in Africa, succeeded. The battle for expansion of the democratic state, which is under threat now, and we must organize to tell dictators there is no place for you any longer. And this is for me, we must win the battle. The other day, 2 years ago, the military commanders woke up to say, oh, we are going to subject Nigeria to positive identification. Everybody must either, be in possession of a driving license, national identity card, and so on and so forth, or voters card on the road. And we have to tell them, you are taking us back to the days of apartheid in South Africa, when blacks had to carry pass. What are you trying to do? Of course, we were ignored. I went to court. The case of FEMI FALANA, the chief of army staff. But that battle was won, and the court said, how dare you? We're not under a military regime. You don't have the power under the law to leave your barrack and subject civilians to a search on the road. That is primitive. That battle was for all of us. Another one, the federal government in Abuja engaged a contractor to be collecting severance fee, $2,000 per batch. And I wrote to the government, because when the governors didn't listen, I wrote to the federal, you cannot collect this fund and put it, in the pocket of a contractor. Once the money is collected, about 40 billion naira a year, 30% will go to the federal government, 5% goes to immigration, 7% goes to Ministry of Interior, and 58% will go to a contractor who is not even in Nigeria. When nobody will listen to me, I went to court. Because this is money that will go to the federation account for the development of the country. Again, we won the case. I said no. Under section 152 of the Constitution, the revenue of the federation shall be remitted to the federation account and then distributed in line with the revenue allocation formula. Of course, the government, federal government, conspire with the contractor to file an appeal. We are in the court of appeal. We have been asking them to come and buy your paper and justify why a contractor, an Indian, should be taking 58% of the revenue. Fortunately, the governors are not interested in the case. So, these are the struggles we are making. They are detaining people illegally. Go to court to save them. I mean, can you believe that young people who were demonstrating peacefully last year, the government decided to punish them. Some of them had their passports seized. Some were denied consular services that they could not renew their passport. Some had their account frozen by the central bank. But one by one, we went to court. Some of them will have to make contacts and threaten the officials to go. We won the battle for the young people so that they will not be discouraged from demanding justice in the country. So the point I make, therefore, if you don't struggle, you cannot win. So we must not give up. I think we are second-rate citizens in this country. We must insist and change the enemies of the people out of power. So that's my own position.
Someone is telling me, sir.
We have been winning. We have been winning.
Yes.
We have been winning.
Someone is telling me that yes.
We all work together to win.
No.
The real battle for political power.
Someone is telling me, sir, that yes, you have been winning, you've dismantled power, but that it is too slow and too little. And that while we are busy blowing grammar here, stark illiterates are busy killing, maiming, and raping. So, can you legislate against killing? Have you been able to do anything against the killings of the people? Can a court stop herdsmen from killing? Did you hear that, sir?
Legislate against what?
Killings. That can you go to court and stop murderers from murdering, stop rapists from raping people, stop kidnappers who are obviously being protected by some godfathers? That so can you go to court? Yes, you can go to court and free someone who demonstrated, but that the problems of Nigeria today are beyond the courts.
Sorry, Dele, Sorry, Dele.
Okay, I can take it again.
I was having some. Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I was having some interventions or interruption. Please,
No.
can you come again?
Yes, someone is saying that yes, you have been winning cases, you have been dismantling power, but it is too slow and too little. And that while we are busy blowing grammar, some illiterates are busy killing, maiming, and raping. That so what power do you have as a senior advocate of Nigeria? Can the judiciary, so can you go to court and say stop herdsmen from killing my people? Can you go to court and say stop them from kidnapping and taking ransom, going to Kaduna to keep students in the forest? That don't you think, yes, you are winning some cases, but there are cases that you cannot win and they border on life.
Yeah. A point. I get the point, and I made the point that our people are justifiably angry because they are frustrated and disenchanted. But my own position is that if we are organized and we address the problems confronting us scientifically, if we don't give up, and if we address the problems where they are located, there shouldn't be any problem. For instance, Billy, talking about security, we need our cities to have CCTV cameras. We need to have tracking devices to track criminal elements. We need to have drones acquired by our state governments, not necessarily Abuja alone, by our state governments. But we're not making these demands. With respect to kidnapping and the rest of them, when the Ibarapa situation became terrible this year, my comrade FEMI, who is also from that part of Oyo State, and I discussed, and we decided to go to court, suing the Oyo State government and the federal government, and praying the court to compel them to increase security in that part of the state. Even though the case is still in court, that has been done. And that has led to reduction in the number of attacks. But we are also suggesting, we have also given suggestions to the people on ground, which I can't say here, on how to defend themselves. But we are the best people to defend ourselves. And we also insisted investigation had to be carried out, particularly with respect to the brutal killing of Dr. Aborode. Now, I can disclose here that investigation has revealed that the man was assassinated by a 80-year-old man, a politician. We are writing to the Attorney General for your state, even though there is a strike, as you prepare the case with a view to approaching the High Court, to have the suspects prosecuted. So we are not simply folding our arms. We go right, and where we cannot even use the local court, we go to the ECOWAS court in Abuja. So the point I'm making therefore is that we need to get organized. We need to make demands of our government. We need that we are not addressing at all. It is the increasing wave of ritual murders in the southwest by native doctors. People want to make money. They are not asking for ransom. They are using body parts for juju. A shrine was recently invaded in Osun State by the police, and they found 48 human heads. You are aware of Badu, in the Ikorodu, and many of them. So, again, we're asking the police, you make these arrests all the time. Where are these guys being prosecuted? And all of us must ask the question, so that dangerous criminal elements are not unleashed on the society after they have been arrested by the police.
Sir, I have another question. There are many questions waiting.
Yes, please go ahead.
This person is saying Amotekun, that you mentioned Amotekun. That Amotekun is not strong enough to even achieve much. Because even when they arrested herdsmen and handed them over to the police, they are usually released, or they say there's an order from somewhere. So how can you have an Amotekun with Shakabula guns against those with AK-47? I hope you heard that, sir. That Amotekun people are carrying Shakabula guns. You know what that means? Shakabula guns against AK-47.
Again, Dele, I continue to insist that we must get our governors to be up and doing. Dele, there is a Firearms Act. Every governor in Nigeria is in charge of the security of the state. Forget what they tell you. Every state has a state security council headed by the governor. The commander of the state security is a member. The commissioner of police is a member. All the military commanders in that state are members. Now, I've never heard of a situation where a governor has given an order, go and arrest that criminal element, or those who are causing, engage in criminal activities in a state. And the governor is told by the commissioner of police, we have to get permission from Abuja. Since 1999, I do not know of any case. On the contrary, in the case of Governor Chris Ngige of Anambra State, when he had problem with the Obasanjo and he had a problem with the control of the police, he went to court, and the Supreme Court made the point that by virtue of Section 215 of the Constitution, the governor of a state is in charge of the security of that state. The point I'm making, and I'm suggesting to our governors, Dele, of course, they won't give me a gun, but Dele, if you apply for a license to bear weapons in Lagos or Ife to protect your family, they will give you, because they will say
AK-47, sir. AK-47, sir. AK-47.
No, they will give you.
AK-47.
Even pump action. Dele, they will even
No, not pump action. AK-47.
No, I'm coming now. I'm coming. Dele, I'm coming. I'm just explaining. I have therefore insisted, if you can give my friend Dele Momodu license to bear weapons to protect himself and his family, and I've challenged our governors, why don't you ask for license for 10,000 young men and women to protect over 20 million people in Lagos? If you are denied, please can you let me know? And we are going to win the battle, because that is discrimination. If you can give about 500 people licenses to carry guns in Lagos, why will you not allow, as our people will say, there is equality before the law. So the point I'm making, today, whatever anybody may tell you, the Amotekun sharps, within the limits of their capacity, are doing very well. All that is left is for our governors to take the next necessary measure to arm them, and let us know the person. Let me know who confront AK-47 bearing people with bare hands. That is asking people to commit suicide. So that's my own solution to that. And we must join our governor, all of us, who are very active on the internet. We must now join our governor. We must push our governors not to risk the lives of young men and women. I mean, I went to defend soldiers who were charged with mutiny. And what was the offense of the boys? He said, no, we cannot fight with empty hands. These Boko Haram troops are armed to the teeth. Of course, and I said, the money meant for procurement of arms have been diverted by a coterie of generals. The boys were convicted, 58 of them, another group of 12, they were all sentenced to death, 70 of them. But we now have to write to the authorities. We don't want to embarrass you. This is where the money meant for procurement of arms have been stolen and diverted. So you must leave these boys. If we leave them, that will create a dangerous precedent. And what we are going to do is to commute their death sentences to 10 years. Half of them will be out tomorrow. The rest will be out in August. So the point I'm making therefore is that there is no way a sensible person can ask an Amateku or any other neighborhood watch person in Lagos to go and confront AK-47 bearing people with their hands. So, and that is why we have given advice. And to the best of my knowledge, some of the governors have taken the advice to arm their Amateku people. Oh yes.
What is your attitude?
Please, Udele, if you know anybody, I beg you, if any of the listeners know any situation where herders or kidnappers were arrested, and because somebody made a call and they are released, please, if you know any situation, let us know. The human rights community, I can assure you, will take it up. We'll take it up.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I said, what is your attitude to self-defense? What does the law say about, just a minute, sir, about self-defense, and what is your view on the Eastern Security Network?
No, by virtue of Section 33 of the Constitution, the right to life is guaranteed, but it's also there that if you use reasonable force to deal with anybody who wants to take your life or your property, that will not be, it cannot be said to be an offense under the law. Both the penal code and the criminal code recognize the right to self-defense. Oh yes, that is the law. And with respect to the Eastern Regional Security Network, I have commended that, just like the Amateku initiative, and Abuja can no longer ask state governments not to defend their people, since the police cannot cope with respect to maintaining internal security in our country.
No, the Eastern Security Network is not owned by government. It's a private initiative.
I thought you were talking of...
No. It's a private initiative for self-defense.
No, you see, once the government has shown a competence in defending the people, once the government has shown that it is sensitive to the yearnings and aspirations of the Nigerian people, it is going to be extremely difficult to outlaw private initiatives meant to defend people. And I have repeatedly made the point that the government has a duty to engage IPOB and other aggrieved parties in the country. Because if you are negotiating with bandits, it's illogical and irresponsible not to engage other forces in the country that have embraced arms in resolving the crisis confronting the Nigerian. And may I also defend the Shiites against the Sunnis in power. And just like I'm defending the Sahrawi people against the invasion of Morocco or the colonization of Morocco. So that's my position with respect to the decision of people to defend themselves. I have no problem with that.
Now, do you think we need a piecemeal amendment of the 1999 Constitution or wholesome remaking of the Constitution?
Come again, whether we need a wholesale. It has to be wholesale. No, I've made the point. We have no constitution now. What our courts erroneously called the 1999 Constitution is Decree 24 of 1999. It's a decree. And that is why Section 130 refers to the President as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, the head of state, and the Chief Executive Officer of the country, as if we are a company, as if we are a corporate party. So you will need to write a constitution. We have to prepare a constitution of the Nigerian people if you want to keep the country together. But there's no way you are going to ask people to accept willingly a constitution imposed on them by military dictators.
Okay. Sir, do Nigerian ethnic nationalities have the right to self-determination? A lot of people are talking about referendum. Do you support a referendum since there is no general consensus on these contending issues? Do you support a referendum?
I've made the point that by virtue of such Article 20 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, African peoples of Africa have the right to self-determination. But as Democrats, as a Democrat, I also want to see a situation where referenda or plebiscites are conducted so that you know the feelings of people at any time. These guys refer to the West all the time. In the United Kingdom, the people of Scotland have heard about 2 referenda and they haven't given up. In Canada, the people of Quebec are allowed to hold referenda. So if by tomorrow they decide we are opting out, so be it. But to say we are not going to do justice in the country, we are going to continue with lopsided appointments, we are going to concentrate major powers in the center without dysfunctioning, you are of course inviting anarchy. You are asking people, it's a case of to divert all Israel. So, and that is why I continue to blame the authorities in Abuja for pushing Nigeria to the extent of asking for their own republics. So, those who want a country of their own will have to conduct a referendum or a plebiscite among them to decide whether they want to remain within the entity called Nigeria or they want to go.
And what are the processes and procedure?
Well, the processes are not, I can tell you, because the demand for the breakup of the country is not recognized by the Constitution. And so the referendum you are talking about in the Constitution is limited to state creation and local government creation. But if you want to get the mood of a people, there are ways of doing that. And people have the right, in this age of the internet, to devise means of finding out what our people want. That's my own position, but because they are not going to allow you to say, oh, we want to have a referendum under the Constitution supposed to be conducted by INEC. So the system will not allow INEC, to say, to conduct a referendum whether any section of the country wants to separate or not. Again, that should be part of the struggle. The National Assembly is going on now, I think 28th and 29th of this month, asking for views of people with respect to the amendment they are proposing for the Constitution. Again, that's an opportunity to say, you must amend the provision for referendum in the Constitution because it's too restrictive. It cannot be limited to only creation of local government or states. That's my approach to it.
So, therefore, is referendum not a road closed?
No, it's an extra constitutional matter. It's an extra constitutional matter. I've made it clear to you. The writers of the Constitution, the drafters of the Constitution, never envisaged that Nigerians are going to be demanding for separation. And so it is not incorporated in the Constitution. So if you are making the demand outside the Constitution, you also cannot be talking of solutions in the Constitution. So it's not a closed road. Again, it depends. If you make the struggle sufficient, whether you have referendum in the Constitution or not is another matter. I'm currently defending quite a number of the leaders of southern Cameroon fighting the Anglophone area, fighting the Francophone area. 2 years ago, the federal government of Nigeria, contrary to international law, expelled about 50 of them from Nigeria and handed them over, to President Paul Biya. They were taken to a military court. We challenged their removal from Nigeria, and we are using the judgments we obtained for them to have the trial nullified, before the UN Human Rights Committee. So the point I'm making, therefore, is that at every stage is for a people to decide what they want. But if we are going to expect this Constitution to set out provisions of a referendum, no, you are not going to get it. And I'm not sure any amendment of the Constitution will allow that. But people will have to determine how to get their people to resolve what they want for themselves.
Someone is asking that is it not contradictory if you already agreed that there is no constitution in what we have at the moment, and yet the people are not able to change what one or two people sat in a room under the military to compose?
No, it wasn't one or two people.
And no, I mean, yes.
And a committee headed by the late Justice Nikitobi, that recommended this constitution for the military. I can't say a contradiction there. I am saying what you call the constitution now is a decree enacted or promulgated by the military and imposed on us, and that our courts have called it a constitution, and that there are limitations in that constitution. And so, if you are fighting, if you are making demands outside the constitution, you can't go to that constitution for the solution to the problem. And there's no illogicality there. So if you are defending the constitutional law and you say that anybody will be asking for separation. So if you are now asking for separation, you must also go outside the constitution. And that's the point I'm making.
Now, Pa Ayo Adebanjo and Professor Banji Akintoye and many others are insisting there should be no elections until some of these issues have been resolved. What would be your attitude to a call for election boycott?
What I have said elsewhere is that scientifically, with the way things are going in the country, I cannot see the possibility of holding an election in 2023. Nigerians may have forgotten that in 2015, the election election was postponed for 6 weeks because about 14 local governments had been captured by the insurgents. Today, majority of the local governments in Borno State, some in Yobe State, some in Niger State, and some other parts have been captured. Today, there is a full-scale war going on in the southeast, in the southwest, of course. Abductions are going on. And so, and you know, during election, there are people who have registered outside their place of work who may then want to go home. That is not possible unless the security situation is confronted and addressed in a positive way, that we can have a restoration of law and order. So therefore, those who are suggesting that serious problems be addressed first before elections, are right. You can't dismiss their position. You can't. Because before our very eyes, there is no part of the country that enjoys relative stability today. For that reason, you be talking of elections. I think it's rather diversionary. Talking of elections now. Which elections?
Okay. Someone is asking if
so how would they vote?
Someone is asking,
including primary school people. We've never had that in Nigeria before. So the atmosphere is not conducive for elections.
Sir, someone is asking that don't you think you'll be playing into the hands of those who don't want to quit power if you say there will be no election? So what happens if there will be no election in 2023? Would there be an elongation?
I am saying I can't see the possibility of holding elections if the security situation is not addressed. And under the content, there is a limit. You can stand for 6 months, but cannot go beyond 6 months. And that's what they are put in their constitution.
What happens if there is a follow-up to that? If Buhari then declares a state of emergency, and then it gets...
So, you see, at that stage, you have to look for solutions outside the constitution. Oh yes, because the constitution never said that the country will not be able to transit, that a regime will not hand over power to another one. What the constitution has said, like the last time, because bandits have occupied a part of the country, let's extend the election for 6 weeks. The constitution has fixed a maximum period of 6 months. The constitution never envisaged that after the 6 months, the war may continue. And so that is why I'm saying you then have to think of solutions outside the constitution. So you can't just have a regime without renewing its mandate. It becomes a military dictatorship.
Yes, but does Buhari have the power?
All Nigerians have to begin to demand now for the resolution of the ongoing crisis, so that the government in power will not take advantage of that provision of the constitution to say we are extending our tenure by 6 months because we can't hold elections under this situation. And that is why we still have almost 2 years ahead. The crisis must be resolved now.
If it is not resolved, does Buhari have the legal possibility, chance of elongating his stay in power?
No, there is no such provision.
No, I'm not talking about provision. When you declare a state of emergency, that is outside the constitution.
No, you can't declare a state of emergency outside section 305 of the constitution. Just limited. You cannot.
But if it so happens, we've said it many times that some things are impossible.
No, the Nigerian people will have to take their political debt
How?
A person in power who was not elected or whose term of office has expired, he cannot continue to govern you.
No, how will you challenge the commander-in-chief, sir? Who controls the military and everybody? How?
No, you were part of what we did, against the military. Even when Abacha and others rolled out the tank, we insisted, you guys have to go.
But they didn't go. If death did not take Abacha, they didn't go.
Some of those who are throwing questions, they simply ask people, sit at home when we were in jail. Young people, organize our people in the country. Again, you saw a bit of that last year, that young people have the capacity to organize our people to make the country ungovernable. But what I'm saying is that to avoid anarchy or to avoid playing into the hands of the regime, we must now begin that campaign for a speedy resolution of the security crisis.
Sir, Abacha did not leave of his own free volition. So why are you so convinced that anybody would leave voluntarily when there are provisions that make it possible for him to remain in power? If there is no election, you can't ask Buhari to go. You can't force him. You can't force him.
No, the power of the people can force any dictator out of power. And that is going on. Or in different parts of the world.
No, how many times has it happened in Nigeria? Give one instance, sir.
The dictator said, I am only stepping aside with a view to coming back, stepping back to power. But Nigeria said, no, I never came back to power.
No, but others took power and became worse.
So what?
Others took power from Babangida and they became worse.
Some of them, I'm sure one of them also expired. Even when Sani Abacha said he was going to be the only candidate, you know what happened at the end of the day? He was removed so that the country would go to a war. Oh yes.
Anyway, that's someone here. I saw a comment from someone who said, that is Dele's mindset. That's not my mindset. People are sending questions.
And somebody said in this country that 1976 was not realistic. After 9 years in power, it was removed. The contradictions in the system will remove a dictator in Nigeria. Particularly a very unpopular dictator. You are going to be shut down. Don't underrate the capacity of Nigerians when provoked to react appropriately.
Someone is asking, why don't you want to be a part of the Yoruba liberation movement?
Why what?
Why don't you want to be a part of the Yoruba liberation movement?
No, it is very difficult for me because I'm engaged in other battles outside the Yoruba territory. And I've just told you, I am the leading counsel for the people of Western Sahara. They are fighting the colonization of their territory by Morocco. I'm involved in the struggle of the Mandinka people in Liberia. I'm involved in the struggle of the people of Western Sahara. Southern Cameroon. I'm involved in the struggle of the Ogoni people in River State. I'm involved in the struggle of the Shiites in Kaduna State, and so on and so forth. But let me also tell you, so that you also know where I'm coming from. I'm involved in the struggle of the masses of Yoruba people. I am actually that 98 people were killed in Lagos in 1 week during the NSAS protest, and we are demanding justice for them. I'm also supporting the lawyer Hussein Afolabi, who is challenging the killing of 4 young people in Ogbomoso during the NSAS protest. I am also involved in getting justice for the families of the 6 people that were killed by the military last November in Nikiri. And I can go on and on with respect to all of those being waged by the masses of our people in Yoruba land, by the workers, women, physically challenged people, and so on and so forth. No, so I am involved. In the daily struggle of our people. But until I conclude some of this struggle, it's going to be difficult to limit myself. But that is not to say that I do not recognize the right of people to self-determination. So if I recognize the right of the Moroccan Sahrawi people to self-determination, or the Ogoni people, or people of Southern Cameroon, how will I say that I don't recognize the right of Yoruba people to self-determination? So people have to understand my position, that the totality of my life is dedicated to the struggle for justice.
There is another question.
For instance,
okay.
For lopsided appointment. I don't just engage in issuing statement. With respect to lopsided appointment, President Buhari dissolved the National Human Rights Commission in November 2015, and we have been pressurizing the regime to reconstitute the body. So recently, a list of about 60 members were sent to the National Assembly, and I saw that the list was full of lopsided, and I had to write to the Senate. You cannot approve this list. If you do, we are going to court. And the Senate saw, the seriousness of the letter, and they saw that the facts could not be contested. They are first a committee now to look at it. So all of us have to insist. I've just seen a list now of the National Security Council, and that body was discussing the affairs of the Southeast. And out of about 12 members, not a single person from the Southeast were taking it up. Because under the Constitution, the president has the power to co-opt people so that all the regions are represented. So that's my position for now.
Thank you, sir. There is a question here. Do you think the Igbo still have a stake in Nigeria?
For me, every part of Nigeria has a stake in it. And we have to struggle to ensure that every part of Nigeria is represented in the government. Section 14(3) of their constitution provides that the government of Nigeria, and does not mean the government of Abuja alone, local government, state government, shall be constituted in such a way that there is a sense of belonging by all the people of Nigeria. And that is the position of the Constitution. And there is also a Federal Character Commission Act that provides for equitable distribution of political posts and amenities. Now, we are getting our colleagues to challenge some of the appointments being made by the government because they are constituting such appointments as fueling agitation for dismemberment of the country. Because you cannot justify, appointing people from one section of the country. No, to the exclusion of others.
What's your reaction to the shoot at sight order?
Which one now?
That the president has asked that bandits, criminals should be shot at.
You see, when President Obasanjo gave a similar shoot on sight order in Lagos, prosecuted, it was not tried. You are supposed to apprehend criminal elements and try them. The knee-jerk reaction, the later knee-jerk reaction of President Buhari was not in order. I mean, people have been demanding that armed elders be arrested and prosecuted for 5 years, 6 years. And the government has been giving one excuse or the other. Oh, they are Libyans, or no. These are people who got weapons from Libya. Oh, these are people who are being used by disgruntled.
Internet.
Politicians and so on and so forth. Let our state government be organized in a way that those who are armed are arrested and prosecuted. That is the law. And we have done it before. In Ondo State, those who kidnapped Shifalai were successfully prosecuted. And we have done it. I mean, somebody was arrested in Lagos. And the policeman called me, Oga, we have arrested a dangerous kidnapper. And if care is not taken, it's likely to be extrajudicially executed. And the evidence will be suppressed. And I simply used commending the police for arresting this particular criminal suspect. But the public will not want to hear that he was shot dead while trying to escape. So, and that was how the suspect was not killed. And I called the Attorney General, please, can you ensure that this guy is charged? And of course, the guy is undergoing trial, and the evidence that has oozed out of the court, simply unbelievable. So, for me, I believe in arresting and prosecuting criminal suspects. And we must insist that this country is operated under the rule of law, and that our states are operated under the rule of law. That's my position.
Now, someone is asking that under President Goodluck Jonathan, many of you went on the streets and protested. So, is it that President Buhari has not seen enough that you are not on the street?
No, we have been on the street. It is a question of whether Nigerians are ready to join us. You can Google. Falana demonstrated against insecurity. We did that last year. And we are planning one for the 29th of this month. And we are currently mobilizing across the country. We were to have a major one in September. Unfortunately, last year, Labour were supposed to have a joint action with the Labour movement on the eve of the strike and the general protest. Labour went to the government. So it takes time to mobilize. But this time around, we're having a major protest on May 29th against insecurity in the country.
The other question, if...
And we hope those who are asking questions will join us wherever they are.
They are listening to you, sir. Yes, the issue of Boko Haram, do you agree with those who are saying they don't think the president is very enthusiastic about waging a war against people he considers his kinsmen?
I'm not sure the president is enthusiastic about anything. Whether you're talking about waging war against economic saboteurs or whatever, it's the same attitude. Nonchalant, lackadaisical attitude, I wouldn't want to see it that way. Because the Boko Haram phenomenon is a tragedy for Nigeria. Here is a country whose armed forces are lauded, commended by the United Nations for contributing to peacekeeping operations. Armed forces that have restored law and order, democratic rule in Liberia and Sierra Leone. So you ask yourself, what is going on? But since the Boko Haram crisis started in 2009, successive regimes have failed to address the prosecution of the war on terror. The armed forces are ill-equipped. The troops are not motivated, and that is why we have had these problems. And unfortunately, Nigeria and South Africa disgracefully refused to prevent the invasion of Libya by the West. Because both countries were members of the Security Council at the material time. They simply abstained from voting. So the West descended on Libya, and unfortunately, Gaddafi had the largest armory in Africa. So as soon as Gaddafi was killed, the armory was looted and weapons, moved out of Libya. Quite a number of the weapons, ended up in the hands of Boko Haram fighters. What a country like Nigeria have done, just like our experience in Liberia and Sierra Leone, anything to go back. Nigeria ought to have bought off those weapons. Unfortunately, here we are. So for President Buhari, he only relies on briefing by service chiefs, unlike the practice of the president paying a scheduled visit, even to the battlefront, to be briefed directly by the soldiers, to address the soldiers, motivate them. But that is not going on in our own case. And that is why it does appear that the sect is having an upper hand.
The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is your friend and colleague. Do you think if he was more empowered, maybe the Buhari government would have been more successful?
Well, I'm a lawyer, I deal with evidence. I don't engage in conjecture or speculation. And so I don't want to show preference with respect to, I see a government as a government. I'm very reluctant to single out any individual in that government. So it's for me, we have to talk of the Buhari administration.
Yes, the question, sir.
So I don't want to engage in, if somebody has been empowered, whether I would have done more. That's in the realm of speculation.
Yeah, the question, sir, is based on the fact that there was a stark difference when the president was away and the vice president was able to act. So the question is coming from someone who is saying he believes the president looks tired, he needs to re-energize, and he has people within his government who can help him, but he believes they are not being used. And it's starting from the vice president that it was clear that the vice president was hands-on while the president was away.
Well, that is true that in 2017, when the vice president acted for the president, there was a movement, But for me, yes, but essentially, the entire government is run on the basis of neoliberal economic policy. If you are saying that one person may be able to run the program much, much better and faster, yes, you may be right. But for me, ideologically, I see the government as one and the same. Defending the interests of imperialism. How you are just to do that is a different matter. Programs that promote devaluation of the currency, those are the programs the government implement. So whether one person would have done it better or not, it's another matter for speculation. And so that's why I don't want to really get involved with the business of showing preferences. I want to look at the government from the point of view of the ideological position. What does the government represent? What does APC represent? What are the values? What are the interests that the government is promoting? For me, I think that it's better to look at it that way, so that we do not leave the basis of our crisis and be talking of those who may simply, address the problems much more on the surface. That's the way I look at it.
Sir, if you were to meet President Buhari today and you are able to influence him, what are the concrete steps you think he should take immediately?
I had already called on the National Assembly to move to impeach the president. So if I had my way, I would advise the president to resign, because he's overwhelmed by the crisis confronting the country. And I would simply advise him, to resign. Yeah, that would be my advice.
Finally,
and once you're unable to address the security of the country and the welfare, which according to Section 14, subsection 2, subsection B of that document, it's well clear that the security and welfare shall be the primary purpose of government. If you cannot address either the welfare or the security, so on what basis are you in power? So that's my position. That's my position.
Recently, you said Nigeria is at war. What's your plan B? That's a question from a viewer. It says, what's your plan B if Nigeria is at war?
My plan B is for us to stay in the country and fight it out. And fight for justice, fight for fair play, fight for economic justice, equitable distribution of the wealth of our country. So that every Nigerian will have a sense of belonging. That's my position. And merciless, reckless killings of our people will have to stop. And the government will have to be rigid to fight the war on terror much more serious. America will not come here to fight for us. No country will do it. The same armed forces that are done very well in the past will have to be mobilized and motivated to defend, and fight external aggression. That's my position.
On a parting note, how do you feel seeing that your son, Faz, is taking the struggle forward?
Isn't another personal? I believe that it's a product of his environment. It's a product of his environment, and it was not easy for the family to let him venture into entertainment. As a lawyer, he had joined us in the chambers, and for a couple of years, or about 3 years, he was already doing well. He was already finding his feet in the legal profession, and he just and said that, I've had enough of legal practice. I'm moving elsewhere. For me, I give my wife some time, to appreciate what the young man wanted to do. But I just said, nobody can blame us. Send him to school, and he's a lawyer. If he succeeds, so be it. If he doesn't make it, he will come back to the office. So please, leave him alone. And I think he has not disappointed us. And, we'll continue to urge him to show more interest interest in the affairs of our country, and that is the only way to make your work, to make his work relevant. So we're okay with him,
Okay, finally.
Initial information, we're okay.
Okay, finally, I know that your wife is finally, your wife is a spiritual warrior apart from being a lawyer. So how spiritual are you, or you depend on her for fortification?
Well, Dele, I think Ruben remembered that part of my early life. I attended the Sacred Heart Catholic Seminary in Akure, Ondo State. But as we say in this seminary, many are called, but few are chosen to be priests. So I wasn't cut out to be a Reverend Father, even though I still have quite a number of my friends in the priesthood. I always believe that religion should be a private affair, more so that the ruling class in our country has used religion to divide our people. But since you have referred to my wife, it's our spiritual warrior in the house, and she mobilized the family, to be prayerful. So let me not go beyond that. Thank you very much.
My warmest regards to mommy. Please extend my love to her always. Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Ruben Abati, I'm sure is waiting to round it up for us. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Ruben Abati, PhD, please. I hope you're on standby. Good. He's here.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bashorundele Momodu, and thank you very much, Mr. FEMI Falana on SCN. I think this has been a very engaging session, and in the last 1.5 hours or thereabouts, you have raised many questions, and I paid particular attention to some of the comments by some of the participants, and I could see that the issues you have addressed, there are issues really also judging from the participation, issues of great concern to Nigerians. But for me, I think there are a number of takeaways. The first is that, look, there seems to be a consensus that Nigeria is not working, and that as Nigerians, we have not learned from the past. Then should we lose hope? Yes, you pointed out that Nigerians are disenchanted, but we should not lose hope. We should not agonize. Instead, we should organize. And I think that is the main emphasis here. You cited the example of the NSAS protesters of last year and various other interventions you've been involved in the past as a way of trying to get Nigeria on the right path. Some of the commentators thought that whole strategy may not work again, and they kept pressurizing our guests to point out what exactly needs to be done. And you really gave a number of examples how the law, the courtroom, can be used as an instrument for indeed correctly and justifiably promoting the cause of justice and for ensuring equity and fairness in the community, and particularly about 20 cases that you said in recent times you have had to take up with regard to many issues, either it's inland waterways or it's land or it's issues of transparency and accountability. Now, security was a big issue in our discussion this evening, and particularly with regard to how security is a big problem for Nigerians. And in this regard, you made a number of points, particularly with the fact that there is herders-farmers conflict in the country, and open grazing, and particularly the objection to the position of the southern governors. And you put up a very robust defense, not just for the southern governors, but for all governors, within the purview of the Land Use Act. Now, when you quoted the Section 1 of the Land Use Act, I was waiting patiently to see what you would say, because, curiously enough, Professor Usman Yusuf, whom you referred to, was also quoting the same Land Use Act, the same Section 1, although he's a scientist, a hematologist, I think. saying that, look, the land use tax should be respected and governors in the south should reserve land for people who want to graze cattle in the southern part of the country. Well, you dismiss that as monumental ignorance. Well, I don't know if Professor Yusuf gets to see this conversation. Maybe he will debate that section 1 of the land that with you, even if the thing obviously speaks for itself. But I'm joking in that regard. And then, of course, then ask, what do you think can be done about security? And I like the point that you made about the connection between technology and security. How we need to do a lot more in terms of deploying drones, in terms of putting CCTV cameras, in terms of using tracking devices. Well, CCTV cameras. Like the same Nigerians that we probably want to protect will go and remove those CCTV cameras. The same way they are removing rail bars, the same way they are removing street lights, which is part of the contradiction that we deal with in this country. Even as leaders trying to help the people and find solutions, you find the same people themselves sabotaging the Nigerian state. That may be accounted for by the trust deficit that we have to deal with, but that's the way it is. Now, another issue of interest from the comments from participants is the right to self-determination. And you made that point about how Article 20 of the African People's and Human and People's Rights recognizes the right to self-determination. But you then added the caveat that, well, you don't believe in secession, even if you believe in self-determination. You believe that a new Nigeria is possible, which was another theme that came out yesterday in our conversation. Okay, what should be done? Should we try to rescue Nigeria, redeem Nigeria, or should Nigerians just go to their tents, go Israel? Now, some people are convinced that the way is just, dismember the country and let each person go their way. But, your optimism is that the country can still be rescued. And if it is not possible to rescue it, if the forces of negativity in Abuja cannot, be rescued from their own delusions and impunity, then, of course, it may become inevitable. But later in the conversation, the issue was then about referendum, whether there should be a referendum or a plebiscite. And you provided enough food for thought in that regard with all that conversation about whether the 1999 Constitution provides for a referendum for secession, which you say no, it's not part of the Constitution. But those who want to take that part will have to adopt extra-constitutional approaches. But you raised the point about people's power. Yes, I don't think anybody can argue with that. And then there was a lot of talk about the Constitution, whether it is the people's Constitution. And you were insistent that we need a new Constitution, because what we are operating at the moment is a creep form of the Nigeria and the people's Constitution. Then again, another big point about federalism, how Abuja, the center, cannot constitute itself into some kind of secret society dictating what should be done in other parts of the country. I agree with the point about the need to restructure. Less autocratic to make the president. There was some point in the fact, of course, to defend that people of the United States are threatened, are using reasonable force. But what constitutes reasonable force?
Dr. Ruben, your internet.
Why are you not one of those people?
Your internet?
My internet?
Yes, it's playing up, yes. I think it has even frozen.
You were asked the point about why you are not part of the Yoruba Liberation Movement. And you made it clear that, yes, why you support masses across Nigeria and also in Yoruba land, You are involved in many other efforts to defend the rule of law and justice and equity elsewhere. You know, in Ogoniland, in Morocco, with the Sahrawi people, with the Mandinka people, in Gambia, and in other parts of Africa. I think on the whole, the big takeaway for many people will be your recommendations about this administration. I think you were, very straightforward that this administration has not performed, has not been able to deal with the challenge of security, and if there's insecurity in Nigeria, we may not be able to hold elections in 2024. And the people must be insistent on ensuring that that is not used as an excuse to derail the democratic process or further constrict, the democratic space, and that you had recommended to the National Assembly to impeach the president, and that if this does not happen, then the president should feel obliged to resign forthwith, because his primary responsibility under Section 14 subsection 2 subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution is to ensure the security and welfare of the people of Nigeria. And if he's unable to provide that, then of course he has no moral justification to remain in office. Well, I don't know whether that is going to generate further controversy after this. But, I would like to say that I've enjoyed this very much. You dodged the question about the Vice President Oshiba. You more or less danced. It all came to a beautiful end. With those your commentaries about family, and spirituality. So, Bobby, I congratulate you, and I say Baraka de Salah to all of us who have been part of this most engaging conversation. Listen.
Thank you, Dr. Ruben Abati, PhD. Just before we go, I would like to say tomorrow we are having Dr. Lisa Agbakoba, SAN, at 4 p.m. because he won't be available in the evening. He has some other engagements. 4 p.m. If you're able to join us, we'll be live simultaneously on Zoom, on Facebook, on Instagram. If you miss it, we always record. So just go to our platforms and you'll be able to watch real time. Then on Saturday, for those of us who say, oh, we don't like the Fulani, we are bringing a very fine Fulani gentleman, very, very fine. Senator Shehu Sani will be with us at 8 p.m. on Saturday, and trust him that he will do justice to all your questions. I'm looking forward to the engagement. So pray for me. Sunday, I'll be 61 by the grace of God, and this is my own way of celebrating it. We don't have the wherewithal to do parties and no one there at this time. So we thank God for life, and then let's do something for our country. It's very important. Mr. FEMI Falana, SAN, I don't know if you want to give us any parting words before we close finally, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Dele. I also thank Dr. Ruben Abati for the wonderful summary he has done. I only want to thank all the participants and to reiterate the point that I respect the feelings of people, respect wishes of people. But I also advise that we need to get organized, and not agonize over the affairs of our country. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I hope to engage further, and see how we can move this debate forward. Again, as I said, I would like people who have concrete complaints with regards to criminals who may be let out by the police or any other agency to let us know, and I'll be willing to take them up, And anybody who is also fighting for freedom, there were some people protesting in Abeokuta last week, and the police arrested them. We also had to follow up and ensure that they were released, even though they were fighting for self-determination. And I made it clear to the police that I'd have to go to court before to beg Buhari, his party, to challenge, disruption of their rally by the police. And so you cannot detain our people who are protesting for freedom, and the police release them. So I assure you, if you have any problem, let us know with the police or we'll be ready to offer our legal services. Pro bono publico. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, sir. God bless you. our dear participants. You've been more than wonderful. And I'm looking forward to you joining us again tomorrow, if you can. Thank you so much. You know, we don't joke with our great Ife. Ife produced this world scholar, world famous lawyer, and that is why I had to end on that note. Yes, thank you so much. I heard the people wishing me happy birthday. Thank you so much, and may the good Lord continue to bless you all. Thank you and good night.
Dr. Huben, we need to ask you the same question we asked FEMI FALANA. When are you going to start supporting?
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. Wow.